Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. A lot to talk about this week. Last weekend we saw the results for the Star City Games Open Baltimore as well as the Standard Classic, and there's some impacts to standard pricing, as you can imagine. We'll look at those. We'll also check in on Modern, and Modern's actually a little quiet this week, which is not a bad thing, considering how turbulent those prices have been recently. We'll look at all of the crazy vintage buyouts that have been going on, and then we'll wrap things up with a Pauper and Commander Spotlight card. Now, quickly before we get started, though, just a really fast reminder. If you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here at the channel, one of which is our Patreon page. You're also going to find links to Amazon products down below if you make any purchases on Amazon. Once you go through that first link, it actually can be anything. We'll get a small percentage for the channel. Finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. Hopefully you can save some cash while you help us out. And with that being said, hey, thank you not only to the folks who check out those links, but to all the viewers. Y'all make the channel what it is. So let's get into it. We're going to begin, as we always do, with Standard and the top 5 Standard legal cards that have lost value this week. Now, we did a companion video a couple days ago looking at the Dominaria prices in particular, so we're not going to talk about those cards today, but I will link that at the end of this video in case you missed it. Number 5, Search for His Content, down 74 cents to $17. This card is still a strong card. In fact, Dominaria's release has in some ways made this card stronger because it pushed white and blue, especially white-blue control, and this is a card that's a key part of those type of decks. The reason it's going down this week, however, is just due to the fact that the Is It Gift deck is not performing as well as it did at the end of the previous meta. That deck kind of came out of nowhere at the end at GP Seattle and put up huge results. A lot of people were captivated by it. They tried to build that deck. Unfortunately, we're not seeing those same results now that Dominaria is in the format. In fact, a lot of people playing gifts are migrating over to a mono red gift deck, which of course does not run this card. Now, aside from that, like I said, it's very healthy though in other decks. I do think it comes down a little bit more, maybe settles in around $15. Part of the reason for that is the fact that Ixalan was open in large quantities. It was the fall set. It was being drafted alone for a long time. This is a rare and not a mythic from that set, which means there's a lot of copies out there. There's always been a tug of war with this card between supply and demand. It's a very high demand card, but there's also a very high supply out there. Now, the good news long term is this card is seeing play in Modern and Control builds and Legacy and Miracles. So it does have legs there, and it's not rotating out of Standard anytime soon either. Number 4, Rekindling Phoenix, down 80 cents to $28.53. This card's still doing good in the new meta. In fact, the aggro decks look great. Red-Black aggro came in second place last weekend at the Star City Games Classic. That deck was running 3 copies of this. So if you're a fan of that style of deck, you got nothing to worry about. The reason this is going down a little bit, though, is because the standard pool has been diluted a little bit by Dominaria. I mean, a big set was coming in, a set that's really pushing white especially. So this card is seeing a little bit less percentage play. And also, some of the mono red builds are definitely running less of this generally. I mentioned that last week, but I've seen a lot of decks running no copies, some running 1 or 2. I mean, this is now competing more and more with things like Goblin Chain Whirler. Glorybringer out of the board sometimes fulfills the need for a flyer. So the card's a little bit in limbo in that deck, but it's still doing well in the black-red variety. Number 3, Chandra Torture Defiance, down 88 cents to $20.49. Now this card's been soft for a little while. One of the big reasons for that is there was a copy included in the mono red Challenger deck, so that introduced a lot more of these into the marketplace. On top of that, it's seeing a little bit less play. Much like the previous card, it still looks pretty strong in red-black aggro builds, usually a number of copies in those decks. But the mono-red decks are starting to shy away from this one as well. You see sometimes decks not running this at all, or maybe 1 or 2, sometimes on the sideboard. So you combine the fact that there's more copies out there with the lower percentage of play, and yeah, this will probably go down some more as a matter of fact. Also, this rotates out in the fall. A lot of people might be hesitant to buy a $20 card when they can invest in something that's going to have a longer shelf life. Number 2, Combat Celebrant, down 99 cents to $8.07. This was a key part of the gift decks, of course. That is a gift deck. When that took off, this card really exploded. Since then, it's calmed down. We're seeing that snapback, which is to be expected. But I think that's being coupled by the fact that the gift decks are not as prominent as maybe a lot of people thought they would be. Now, the good news is this does convert very well into the mono red gift deck, so it's still very playable there. even if the Isn't one does eventually disappear, which I don't think it will completely disappear. But overall, I think this card continues to decline. Number 1, the Scarab God, down 207 to 23.98. Wow, the downward spiral continues for this one. The Scarab God has been a key card ever since it was introduced into Standard, but it's having some tough times right now. First off, the meta shift did not help this card. There's more of a focus on Azorius colors right now, some Rakdos, mono red, some white-black, but Dimir colors are kind of falling out of favor a little bit. Secondly, this is a card that is collateral damage for any graveyard hate people put in to defend against gift decks. Not to mention, the Scarab God was probably a good enough reason to run graveyard hate. As a matter of fact, the card was pretty strong for a long time. Now, aside from that, another one that is also rotating out this fall. Add it all up, and this card is going to continue to go down. It is a good commander card, so it might not completely collapse at rotation this fall, but unlike a card like Chandra, which sees a little modern and legacy play, this currently sees almost no play outside of Standard when it comes to the other competitive formats. Sometimes it will show up in a Grixis control deck out of the board, or one of in a fairy deck, but that's really about it so far. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 Standard legal cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, Ghalta Primal Hunger, up $1.06 to $6.12. I was saying earlier that Dominaria brought a lot to white in Standard. However, it also brought a lot to green, and that was very evident this week in some of the builds. The Mono Green Vehicles deck, as well as the Green Stompy deck, both looked amazing this week, and this card was part of many of those builds. Number 4, the Immortal Sun, up $1.57 to $14.99. The reason this costs $15 really is Commander, it's not so much Standard. This does see a tad bit of Standard play in a variety of different decks sometimes. It's like a one of or one out of the board. There's a lot of players trying to really make this work and push it. Hasn't quite gotten there yet, quite honestly. But Commander players, they're more than happy to grab copies of this. Number 3, Walking Ballista, up $4.92 to $22.87. Wow, has this had a big couple of weeks. Not that this card ever went away or was performing poorly or anything. It's been a great card ever since it came into Standard. However, Dominaria has really boosted this card, showing up in a number of different decks. The Historic deck especially has got a lot of people's attention right now, but it's still in a lot of the aggro builds too, among other places. This card is phenomenal, and even though, yes, it does rotate in the fall like some of the other cards we've been talking about, it sees extensive play in Modern and Legacy too, so you really don't have to worry about anything with this one. Yes, it will go down in price a little when it rotates out, but long term, if it doesn't see a reprint, this card could have some value attached to it in the future, so this is one to watch if nothing else. Number 2, Ronus, the Indomitable. Up $5.70 this week to $18.19. That's a huge week. And I said, I think 2 weeks ago, that it was only a matter of time. When these green decks hit, this card was going to jump up, and it just happened. Again, another card that is part of the Mono Green Vehicles deck, as well as the Green Stompy decks. And this one, I think, keeps going up, probably settles in somewhere around the $25 mark before it stabilizes. Number 1, Getting of the Trials, up $5.72 to $22.65. This is one white card that is definitely getting a huge push thanks to Dominaria and the cards that have been added to the meta. And I'll tell you right off the bat, I mean, this card was good before in control builds, we saw it in approach decks and such, but right now it is really taking off. Control decks, aggro decks, historic decks, vehicle decks, this thing is all over the place. Not to mention, it's still seeing some modern control play too. This might be the Scarab God of this meta. Alright, let's move on to the world of Modern with the top 5 Modern cards that have lost value this week. And like I said at the top of the show, Modern, very calm this week. Not a bad thing, though. Number 5, Engineered Explosives, down $3.01 to $80.96. This is the Modern Masters version this week. And this card was extremely popular many years ago and then started to fall off a little bit. Recently, when the unbannings occurred, a lot of people discovered this card again. Started showing up as a one-of here and there in sideboards, and then more and more decks were picking it up, and then you started seeing two-ofs in some decks. So this card really took off recently and had some big gains, so this snapback is not surprising. It needed time to kind of adjust after the big growth that it saw. Number 4, Steam Vents from Guild Pack, down $3.29 to $36. Key part of so many important mana bases in the Modern format. And even though it's down a little bit this week, doesn't really mean anything. It just saw some growth, much like our last card. Very quick growth, so this card just needs a chance to normalize. Number 3, Mox Opal from Scars of Mirrodin, down $3.95 to $99.99. Another card that just needed to normalize a little bit. The Mox Opals have been so hot, and it's pretty amazing to me that they are at $100 right now. If they don't see a reprint, they will go higher. I could see them reaching 110, 120, maybe in 6 to 8 months, something along those lines. This is a key card in so many big decks in Modern, like Affinity, Lantern Control, and Ironworks combo. Number 2, Dark Confidant, down 403 to 84.47. This is the Modern Masters version. All the copies have been going down. This one was going down the least, so it's starting to catch up a little bit this week. Now, I mentioned it in previous weeks, but the issue Bob's having right now is simply the Jund deck is just not performing the way a lot of people expected. Since it's soft and it's not putting up a big result, this card is also very soft. Now, that could change at any moment if someone can put up a good result with Jund. The other issue, though, Bob has right now is the other big deck that he's in, Humans, he's seeing less and less play. Many decks running just one copy, some decks not running any copies. So I do think this continues to go down unless something changes. Number 1, Jace the Mind Sculptor. 2 versions here. World Weight down 306 to 123.50, with Eternal Masters going down 413 to 106.46. There was so much hype around Jace when he was unbanned. There was no way for that hype and the values to maintain. And that's what's going on now. All of that is starting to rescind a little bit. The dust has settled. Everybody's figuring out where Jace is good, where Jace is not good, how many copies you want in a deck. And guess what? It turns out Jace is not good in every deck. Jace is good in classic control builds, maybe Blue Moon, but Jace is not taking over the format or anything like that. He has not brought the end of days. So his price points are starting to reflect that. I do think Masters 25 probably settles in closer to $90. World Wake probably settles in around $115. Eternal Masters 95, $100. So these will all go down. I mean, don't expect the card to bottom out or anything because it is still seeing Modern play. It's a good Modern card. It's also very good in Legacy and Vintage too. Let's move on to the top 5 Modern legal cards that have gained value this week. We're actually going to see 3 cards out of the 5 here that are moving not because of Modern, but because of casual Commander play. So let's get into it. Number 5, Life and Limb, up 210 to 560. The first of such cards. Dominaria is bringing Saprolings back in a big way, and the casual and Commander players are going to be happy to pick up some of these old cards to build around the new ones they're getting. Number 4, Stomping Ground from Guild Pack, up 223 to 37.50. Key part of so many important mana bases. This card has been really hot recently. Number 3 is another Commander card. It is Marrow Gnar, and it's going up 322 this week to 1804. This card being pushed by the inclusion of Rat Colony in Dominaria. A lot of players trying to build those Commander or casual Rat decks right now. Number 2, Thrumming Stone, up 514 to 1749. Again, Rat Colony is pushing this card as well, so if you're wondering why would a Commander player want this, well, Rat Colony does allow you to put as many copies of the card as you want in your deck, so it does break that rule of just the one, and this card all of a sudden gets better, or if you're just playing a casual build, it will work there too. But this card always gets hot whenever they publish a new card that says you can put as many of the card as you want in your deck and break that 4-card rule, or the 1-card rule, and then it goes back down shortly after. Number 1, good old Horizon Canopy from Future Sight, up $22.96 to $99. This card got extremely hot this week, and it's funny, this card was around $95, $100 before the reprinting in Iconic Masters. Now, you can get that Iconic Masters copy relatively cheap compared to this one, as a matter of fact, if you're trying to build a deck with it. Some of the popular builds include Humans or Boggles, but this card is in a lot of different decks across formats. However, it just goes to show you that original cards are always going to hold value, especially when they're unique like this one. It's got the unique Future Sight border, it's got unique art. A lot of players are still gravitating towards this over the cheaper copy. Vintage Spotlight. Okay, are you ready to talk about some buyouts? Well, you've come to the right place. There are tons of buyouts going on. I can't cover them all. There's a million cards. You're probably going to say, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? But we'd be here all day. There are so many cards being bought out right now. There's so much artificial inflation going on. It's to the point, I don't know which came first. Was the card going up a little bit and then somebody decided to buy it out and create artificial inflation? Or did the card not do anything and people bought it out and that created a price increase? I don't know at this point. It's crazy. Things are all over the board. So we're going to spotlight some cards from different sets. Some are moving high percentage-wise. Some are moving high price-wise. I just tried to get you a good cross-section. Now, in case you haven't been watching the videos for a few weeks, just to clarify what this is about, buyouts are simply when somebody goes out there and buys all the cheaper copies of the card, leaving the more expensive copies on the marketplace, and that drives up the price point and they can sell them back quickly. Unfortunately, recently people have taken an extra step and decided to also list a card, or at least one copy of the card, at an extremely high, unrealistic price, and that throws off the market value when you look at sites like MTG Goldfish or Price or Stocks. So when that happens, people think the card's worth a lot more than it is, and even though they're not going to buy that extremely high-priced card, they might buy cards that are a little bit less, but still a lot more than they should be paying. So that is really muddying the waters when it comes to what cards are really valued at. One way to get around that is instead of looking at, say, MTG Goldfish when you're deciding to buy an older card, go and look at either TCG Player's market prices, or go to eBay, look at sold listings, and find out what people are really paying for them. Now, I've looked at both, and I found that the eBay prices are slightly higher, maybe about 5% higher than what you see on the TCG Player market price. Not really sure how they calculate that. They did say they calculate it based on sales, but I'm not sure if that includes everything or only cards in certain grades or what have you. I would imagine it probably includes everything. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a card, then I'm going to show you what MTG Goldfish is saying it's doing, and then I'm going to show you what the results actually are based off eBay data. I did get some questions last week on how I get the eBay data, so I'll clarify that really quick. I'll look up the card, I'll go to sold listings, I'll take an average of the prices that were sold the last 7 days. However, I do throw out the low prices that are based on cards that maybe were heavy played or damaged cards. And I'll also throw out the really high prices that are usually the graded cards. So I end up with an average from cards in the middle, which are usually your light play, moderate play, maybe some near mint ungraded cards. So I try to sit right in the middle and throw away the outliers, if that makes sense. And I think that gives you a bigger picture of a card that you might actually want to purchase. And I only pull prices from English language cards because there sometimes are differences in rarities. Okay, let's look at Savannah Lyons from Revised. Had a nice week, up $671 to $995 according to MTG Goldfish. Is that true? Did this card really go up to $10? It's being sold this week at $605 on average. Now, that's actually still a pretty nice increase, and it could be partially due to the fact that this is a good 93-94 card. So, yeah, it has gone up. Maybe not to the degree that it looks like it went up if you look at a site like Goldfish or Price or Stocks, but this is probably true growth and not manipulation. Ventifact Bottle, up $17.26 to $17.74. Really big price increase percentage-wise here. Now, this is a Mirage Reserve List card, unlike the last card, which actually just got reprinted in Masters 25. But this one is on the Reserve List. You could argue that this card actually might be fun to try out in some casual formats. We're at $7.78 according to eBay pricing right now. So still, it's gone up quite a bit. Maybe not as high as it looked like it went up, but it's still growing at a really large rate. This probably, again, is true growth to some extent, or at least maybe an old-fashioned buyout that's not trying to manipulate the listings. Meditate. This is a Tempest Reserve List card, up $22.85 to $27.84. Now, this one has a different story. This is an all-new, different way to manipulate the market. Somebody actually inputted fake tournament results, a legacy tournament to be precise, and put a deck running this card in first place. People saw it as they started kind of combing over tournament results, started building the deck, and guess what? This card actually spiked because of it. So, yep, there's another thing we got to watch out for now. Let's see what it did on eBay, though. $6.92. So, I guess it's good that it's not really $27, but the bad news is a lot of people bought these this week and probably paid a lot more than they would have normally. Mind Over Matter. This is a good cube card. This is an Exodus Reserve List card, up $26.83 to $50.98 this week, according to MTG Goldfish. But on eBay, it's at $29.14. That's actually not a big difference, and again, this does feel like maybe it is true growth. Hellfire, another Legends Reserve List card. According to MTG Goldfish, this one's up $28.90 to $85.13. I used to play with this card back in the day. I wish I still had them, but what are they worth according to eBay? $68. Actually, again, very, very close. This card really did go up this week. Mishra's Factory. This is the Antiquity Spring variant, up $37.35 to $97.50. Okay, around $100. That feels a little expensive for this card. This is not on the reserve list, but this is a hard-to-find variant. $49.14. So okay, not $100, but still not bad at around $50. Telekinesis, another Legends reserve list card, went up $53.77 this week to $108.73, according to MTG Goldfish. Is that true? $39.12. So, yeah, again, it's gone up a little bit. Not quite as high, obviously, as it looked like it went up, but this one is still growing, even if it is slow. Divine Intervention, another Legends reserve list card, up $55.93 to $125. Okay, that's starting to feel a little expensive. eBay price, $50.83. This one had about a $75 difference, which is a little more significant. Rasputin Dreamweaver. Okay, the gold Legends cards that are on the reserve list like this one, they can get pretty hot at times. This week, MTG Goldfish says this went up $66.05 to $167. eBay, $90. Still growing. This card is still getting more popular. Okay, maybe not $167 popular, but $90 is not bad, and honestly, there was only one sale, so this could be a little off this particular price. Hazan Tamar, another one of these gold reserve list Legends, up $127.48 to $280. This one has been popular recently. $104.03. So again, it's sitting around $100. That's kind of where it was before the price hike, which again feels like some market manipulation. Another copy of Mishra's Factory. This time we get the fall variant from Antiquities. According to MTG Goldfish, it's going up $138.99 this week to $179.95. According to eBay, it's worth $71.22. So again, the price is not low. It's actually surprisingly high. Next one, Jihad from Arabian Nights. And this is a reserve list card. According to MTG Goldfish, it's up $725.01 to $875. What's eBay say? $150.72. Now, there was actually quite a few of these cards that sold this week around that price point. They were very, very consistent, and they were in very good condition. Actually, some were in really nice shape. So it just goes to show you that you have to be really, really careful and do your homework on these cards. All right, last one. The Abyss. Legends Reserve List card. Okay. According to MTG Goldfish, this went up $1,386.65 to $1,999.97. Is the Abyss really a $2,000 card? Place your bets. No, it's $515.50. Still a very, very expensive card, but it is not a $2,000 card. Okay, let's move on to something that I can afford, and that's Pauper. So let's look at one card that I wanted to spotlight for you if you're a Pauper fan, and that is Spore Frog. This is up 22 cents to $2.21. See, that's more like it, right? Now, this card is actually played in a number of decks out of sideboards, and it did not go up a lot this week, but percentage-wise, it was a good jump for a Pauper card. And finally, I wanted to end things with a quick Commander card. And I know we've been talking a lot about Commander in this video, but one more card before we go. That's Goblin Bombardment. Actually, two versions. Commander 2013 is up $8.41 this week to $9.30, with the dual deck speed versus cunning version up $8.68 to $13.49. This card is in a lot of Commander decks. However, recently I think there's a little more attention on it thanks to Squee the Immortal, because there are some cool combos you can do with these cards. So it gets the attention, and of course the harder to find copies started to disappear, leading to the higher price points. Some people do like the unique art that's on the dual deck one. Alright, with that being said, that's our Market Watch for this week. Hopefully things will stabilize next week. Tune in and find out. We'll all tune in together because I don't know what's going to happen anymore. Until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.